Now, you also know that, you know, if we're facing this problem politically now, I mean, the politics of it is not going to disappear in the conference, is it? The reason I say this is because if you look at what has happened, one of the things when people were agitating for the conference was that they did not want the influence of politicians in this particular conference. They wanted the conference of the Nigerian people. At least that was what a host of people whom we questioned here said they wanted. I mean, they wanted it to be, is it isolated or insulated from the influence of politics? But what we're saying now is also, for instance, last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, for the very first time we saw a South-South-South conference. I mean, people from the South-South, from the Southwest, and from the Southeast come together to table an agenda for the conference. And people are saying it's no different from what has been the request in the past. How do you see this particular conference being able to scale the hurdle, especially when we know that some of the issues will be contentious?
Yeah, sure. They are supposed to be contentious. That is essentially part of why it is a conference. That's why they were called together. But again, what we cannot run away from is the fact that it's going to be political. By its content and nature, it's political. But what we have tried to achieve, and of course what we commend the government to, in its, its own achievement, is the fact that they have attenuated the presence of politicians. They have weakened their presence by a preponderance of non-politicians. Otherwise, this conference is not supposed to go and hold in a church or in a mosque.
They've weakened their participation, but have they weakened their influence on the conference?
No, there's no way you can weaken their influence, because they can't even weaken the influence of, say, for instance, religious groups. Everybody is exerting influence. That's why it is a conference. Influences are going to come from ethnic groups, religious groups, professional groups, all kinds of minority groups and all of that. So this is a melting pot. It's a melting pot of influences. So capacity to wade through it is what makes the conference successful or not.
What if the government doesn't, at the end of the day, initiate that executive bill to give legal backing or powers to this conference? What happens?
Good. The conference can. So moto. They can on their own initiate it.
Overriding?
No, not overriding. They can initiate it. And that's the condition precedent to submitting this is that this executive bill, this legal backing must be there. So otherwise, they have done that to waste their time.
What if the National Assembly doesn't accede to that demand?
They will. If it's the demand of the people, they will.
They will?
They will. That's when agitation
will come. They will or they should?
They will.
Oh.
Not just should, they will. Because that's when agitation, that's when Nigeria, and then you can't gather the whole of Nigeria in Abuja to do a 3 months conference, and it is going to rust away somewhere or gather dust somewhere. Then it doesn't make any meaning. They will.
But if we trust them enough to, pass an executive bill or pass a bill giving it legal backing, how come we don't trust them enough to look at or ratify what it is has been discussed in a conference and make it into law?
Well, the problem is that if you ask them to ratify it, they will now begin to tinker it. It becomes a situation where they have to begin to see those ones that make meaning to them. And of course, when you say something makes meaning to a politician, a regular Nigerian politician is talking about himself. And that is why during that Awolowo conference lecture, we kept talking about service. Selfless service. And that's why I've said on television here that the way you see estates spring up in the names of past governors, past senators and all of that, you cannot see these are Awolowo estate anywhere. You don't see Aminu Kano estate. These are people who served Nigeria selflessly. At a point in time when they could have even stolen this country blind, because there were a few accountants then. Chartered accountants in Nigeria in the 50s or thereabout, where just you could count them on your fingers. And they kept giving service and service. So that's why I keep talking about, when people talk about, let's go back to regionalism, they are talking about the structure. They are not talking about the self, the people who drove that regionalism. Regionalism alone is not an end in itself. It is those who will be behind them. And that is why I keep saying that our problem is not these pieces of paper we are talking about, change the constitution, all the good things we are talking about, how Lord Lugar's mistress named Nigeria, Niger, sure, it could have been his mother-in-law, we don't care. But the point is, who is leading us? When we're talking about who is leading us, then we're talking about the people and not the party.
You know, initially you were opposed to this, just as so many other people and some states and political party. But now almost everyone is trying to spring up some names, nominees to go represent them. What do you think they have seen that is making almost everyone to believe in this process?
You see, people don't want events to pass them so that they don't have to regret. I remember at a particular point in time, APC structure, or at least leadership, said that people were not going to participate. And of course, before they knew what was happening, I think they took the wind off their sail. And they were going to send people to it. And it's like, is it possible that our voice will not be heard in this conference? Who knows what this conference is going to end up? It's the fear of the unknown that is making everybody say, let us participate. Otherwise, we will regret having not participated.
And the big names, you know, coming up, we're not talking about the chairman and the vice chairman. We're talking of those that are coming up from states, and these are reputable Nigerians. So at the end of the day, don't you think that we might get into, for instance, one great critic of this administration, Dr. Junaid, he's there. He will be going from Kano State. So are we like that? Is that why you say they will insist on making the decision of this particular conference count?
That's why I told you that I'm quite excited at the quality of persons going to this conference. And the quality of persons going to this conference translates to the fact that this conference cannot be in vain. Because if it were some group of people gathering somewhere and generally going to talk, maybe they simply probably collect their allowances or whatever is due to them and walk away. But the quality of persons that, you notice that quite a number of zones have been saying that their first 11 will go there. So if their first 11 will go there, and that is why I am even rating it well and over and above the nature of the National Assembly and the composition of the National Assembly. Because these are people that their own people said, go represent us there. As against these elections that we had that are always contentious, half of them are decided by courts, the proper people do not go there, you end up, imposing some people, through party structure. But these are people who are going there genuinely to speak their minds without party affiliations.
Now you're talking about elections. You think that the security situation or what amounts to insecurity should also be discussed there at the conference?
No, it's a conference is an open conference. Like I said, it can turn anyway. There's just only one thing that said, don't talk about it. But it is one place where you can discuss everything under the sun. Right. This insecurity that we are talking about, I think it is in this conference that people should be able to tell those who live in the Northeast to go back and search their consciences and begin to look inwards with regard to how this problem can be solved. Yes, they require federal might, they require the military, they require the cooperation of everybody in Nigeria, north, south, east, or west. But the important thing is that they must begin to cooperate. Because, you see, initially, they came across as the people who are almost loyal to the cause of the Boko Haram people. But, you see, the result, like I predicted at that point in time, has changed. At a point in time when they are now victims of Boko Haram, of course they cannot continue to give them loyalty. Because initially, there was this romanticizing of Boko Haram having killed their leader, injustice, equity, and all of those, catchy words and all of that. But now, the Boko Haram people are unleashing violence on literally everybody. The leadership of their traditional institution, the leadership, even retired military generals and all of that, not to talk of children, women and children and all of that. So it takes somebody who does not want to come out of a particular problem to be able to begin to still romance with Boko Haram. And it is in this conference that people should be able to say so. We had problems like this elsewhere, namely the Niger Delta. Because I hate people comparing what happened in Niger Delta with what is happening in it is absurd. For anyone, one of your guests compared it the other day and said it is about the same thing. It is not just the same thing. This is peculiar. This is different. And again, it is also important for us to now say that the military should step up their game. It is out of patriotism that we say the military is working hard. They're working hard, but we cannot say this is their best.
Does that have to do with the nature of the state of emergency?
The nature of the state of emergency probably will not account for all of that. Because you see, what I guess you can be talking about is the political leadership is there and we're also doing military operations. It can happen. It can happen. I mean,
is it
even at the national level,
no, is it happening
the civilian president can be there and, you know, we can go to war and still win the war. But you see, it depends on how much the military steps up their game. It is important they go back to the drawing table, you know, and step up their game. It is a clarion call on them, because you see, the number of people that are dying in the Northeast, when we say we are at war in all the meanings of that word. We are at war. It's no longer insurgents. When you talk about insurgents, you are talking about maybe when they started, they were throwing IEDs here and there, and about 2-3 people and all of that will die. But now, people are dying in their hundreds.
Yeah, but
so it is a war.
But the question now
so
is
properly
this.
called.
If this is a war, now why is it that we've been able to, at least so far, curtail these attacks in Abuja, but now in these regions it's become rampant? Why is that the case?
Good. You have just made the point I was earlier trying to make, that given the quasi-cooperation of the people who are in those areas, because I mean, the people are not dropping from the sky. The truth must be told. They are not dropping from the sky. They are coming from the communities. They live around there. The communities know, even if they talk about these mountainous areas that these people are living in, they also know where those mountainous areas are. So, if for any reason they begin to cooperate appropriately with the military people on ground, they will rout them out. And that is why it is like a safe haven for them, because they cannot get that kind of cooperation in Abuja. Neither can they get it elsewhere, but they are not getting it, you know, around that particular area. And what we are saying is that if this is a war that is localized in 3 states, why wouldn't the military rout them out? Yeah, except for this argument about collateral damages, you know. And there's this other argument about sovereignty of Cameroon. Let us violate the sovereignty of Cameroon and face that. Yes.
Are you subscribing to that?
Of course. I mean, America did it in quite a number of places. It's not even America. The examples are bound all over the place. When people want to protect their national interest, they can get into other people's territory. We have done it before.
Are we ready? Can we handle it?
We claim, and I think we do, we have the strongest army in this region. We do.
So, but
we should be able to show our teeth in that regard. If Cameroon cannot cooperate with us, let us chase the people into whatever territory, into whatever part of their territory that the people have gone to hide.
But why are we having this?
And let's now sort out this problem at international level as having invaded Cameroon.
With all the possible backlash that will follow from international community, I mean, we should be ready for that if we're taking this action.
I've told you that the examples are all over the place. America cannot, for instance, say they are not guilty of that. You saw what they did in Pakistan. They've done it everywhere.
So it's not enough to close.
Britain does it and all of that. So we are a regional power. If we cannot get them to cooperate with us by way of exposing, I mean, these people hit us, they go back to Cameroon, and we stop at the border and wait for them to come back again. That is assuming that is the scenario. But I have a feeling that a lot of them are located in these 3 states that we are talking about, and we should be able to rout them out.
Okay, Mr. George Eke is a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
We'll return after this break. Don't go away.